Thank you, Mary. Mary and I, Dave as well, we had to had our emergency building training last week where we had to sit and learn about our building. What was the big takeaway for you, Dave?
Well, first of all, I'd say we didn't have to. We wanted to.
Oh, sorry.
I found it very interesting. I learned some things. I would always have assumed if there was a fire, you just find the nearest stairwell and head out of the building, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, there was a lot saying stay where you're at until you're told where to go.
Stay until you're told.
Well, because the firefighters have to use the stairs for their setting up.
Right, and that there's two stairwells. Mm-hmm. I never knew that.
Yeah, right. So we learned a lot. We also learned about fire safety and fire sprinklers. That was a big part of it. I did not realize that the sprinklers will not go off when there is smoke. They will only go off when there's heat.
Yes, and I also learned that if I put my keys in a sock, I can use it as a weapon.
Okay.
Or your can of pop.
Yeah, right. Well, we wanted to continue the conversation about fire safety in Chicago with the Northern Illinois Fire Sprinkler Advisory Board and also someone from the Sprinkler Fitters at Local 281. Tom Lee is with the advisory board, and Brian LaRoche is with the Sprinkler Fitters Local 281. He's also the apprentice training coordinator, and they're in studio. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Justin, Mary, and Dave. Appreciate it.
Did we take away the right stuff from fire safety? I mean, what I said about heat, and I got it.
No,
I'm ready
absolutely.
to go.
That's one of the big misnomers about fire sprinklers is that every movie, every cartoon that's out there, all the sprinklers go off when there's a fire or smoke or somebody burns toast.
Right.
It takes the actual heat of a fire to break the glass that holds the water back, and only the sprinkler that has the fire will operate. So that alone makes a big difference with the people's education.
You said because of movies, but at home, because smoke will set off your alarm,
right? You think
that's going to trick off the water system as well.
They're interconnected, but they're basically two separate systems. So basically when that head goes off, the only time you'll see a system that has multiple heads going off at one time is for a high hazard situation like an airplane hangar.
Interesting.
But in a retail or an office building, one head, most of the time, one or two heads will put that fire out.
At least 96% of the time, correct.
I would think, and you've seen a lot of this in the city, there will be calls where there will be smoke. I was actually in Washington yesterday where there was smoke billowing out of a window downtown. It seems to be because of fire technology, that we're talking about sprinklers, other things, that there's more of an opportunity to contain and get rid of that fire quickly from the fire department and from the building's inspection systems or sprinkler systems. We had a fire in the area within the last month or two, the Prospect, it was Prospect Heights fire, where it wasn't. Tell us about this fire, because this is one that when I looked at it, I was like, well, that's so interesting that this building, it burned completely.
Sure. Riverdale's, I believe it was 96 units that were affected. Over 500 firefighters responded from 50 different fire departments. They had to move up. The suburbs came in pretty deep on that one. They had to bring in a lot of support. They had no fire stops. They had no draft stops. They had a mansard roof which comes along the side of the building. The fire was started by a young child. It's one of the problems we have, juvenile fire setting. And we're not going to blame that person, but it started there. It could have been contained if there was a sprinkler in that unit, but there wasn't. So basically you had a small fire that was started in a unit. Once it got to the attic and the open areas, it just kept going. They couldn't stop it. There was nothing for the firefighters to make a stand. So once it got to a certain point, they kept moving, trying to contain the fire. With no fire stops, no firewalls, the mansard roof.
Did we see this a lot in the Chicago area? Is there a percentage or a number or just a ballpark figure about how many buildings are retrofitted and ready with the latest in fire technology as opposed to the ones that just don't have anything?
Well, at this time, California and Maryland have adopted codes where they require all new homes to be fire sprinkler protected. Illinois happens to have 104 communities that have adopted it, with Long Grove being the first one in 1988. Palatine recently just passed one last month, I believe. And in the outer areas, Island passed it.
So do you go back to retrofit other houses with that ordinance?
No, that's a good point, Mary. It's all new homes only. But towns like Clarendon Hills, LaGrange Park, and Park Ridge, they tear down a home. The new one has to be built with the new technology, whether it's the energy efficiency or the fire sprinklers that are in there.
And what about the city of Chicago? And that obviously with such a residential width, if you will, does the city of Chicago have the same kind of ordinance in place?
I'm going to give them kudos for having, most of those single-family homes that are coming in right now are on 30-foot lots, so they're real narrow. So the architects and the people, they want to use all the space they can. but they have to have a second exit, a stairway. And the Chicago gives them an option. If you eliminate the second exit, you can put sprinklers in and you can remove the stairway. So there's at least 2,000 homes protected in Chicago that way. The high-rises are a different situation. They did, after the Cook County Administration Building fire, they retrofit all the commercial buildings, which just ended in 2017. And they're still winding up with the residential high-rises. However, Chicago went with they custom-made a code which really doesn't follow any national standard. They tried to compromise, but I feel that the compromise wasn't enough.
I've read about this. This is the idea that the older buildings, maybe they'll be historic in nature, or maybe they're just built differently. That there was a lot of exemptions made in the code to say, well, if you have an older building, you don't have to necessarily retrofit it because it costs too much money. And there was a lot of concern saying that's just a way for people not to spend extra money to get themselves up to speed.
Exactly. You know, they did. That was a good point, because they would make a voice alarm annunciator in every building, which I think is a good idea. However, that's not going to stop a fire. It's not going to notify you about a fire either. So they gave you points for that, and they reduced the points for fire sprinklers so that specifically your building could pass the life safety evaluation without putting them in. But right. I think it gives the people a little bit of a false sense of security, because out of maybe 1,000 buildings, I think 100 chose to pass their life safety evaluation with fire sprinklers.
You know, and a texter put up a good point saying for single-family homes, you know, to outfit to fit them with sprinklers and the latest technology, there's a cost to that. That's cost prohibitive in some cases. Is that something that you're just going to have to live with? That's how houses are going to be built this way, and you're going to have to factor that into the price?
You have to consider that. That's very important. What you also do is that you get your insurance saving for your unit. But not only does your unit get the insurance saving, you can get the common area, so that the association and the people benefit from that. Factor those costs in, and then you could really get a hard figure on the cost.
Brian, I'll give you the last word here, because with the union, there's a lot of opportunity here for employment, because as we're talking about retrofitting in new homes, there needs to be a skill associated to putting these sprinklers in.
Yep. What we have is we have over 1,000 working members in Chicagoland that are out there every day installing, maintaining, inspecting, and testing sprinkler systems. So it's a great opportunity for young people, you know, if they're looking for a skilled trade.
For you, as technology changes and sprinklers change, what do you have to do at the union to keep up with that, to make sure that everybody, not just the apprentices are trained up, but that the trainers are trained?
We're constantly training and going and upgrading our skills. We just spent the last 9 days up in Ann Arbor. We're the United Association, which is all the plumbers, sprinkler fitters, pipe fitters in the nation and in Canada. We go there and we upgrade our skills, and we become the students. The teachers become the students.
Where can we find out more information if I'm interested in getting into this business?
Basically, our website is www.sprinklerfitterchicago.org, and you can keep track. We're going to be taking applications for our apprenticeship program after the first of the year.
There you go. That is Brian LaRoche. He's with the Sprinkler Fitters Local 281. And Tom Lee is here as well, the Northern Illinois Fire Sprinkler Advisory Board. Guys, thanks for coming in and talking about fire safety. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, thank you, Mary. Mary and I did